for many programs, an 11-1 season is a great season. I think a lot of people would be excited if that was the finish to their year, but certain programs view that as a disappointment. Ohio State is one of those teams, and now they find themselves in a bowl game that maybe they didn't want to be in, but nevertheless, they are here and they have to find a way to move on from that disappointment of losing to Michigan yet again, not making the college football playoff, and finding ways to look forward to 2024 and build some of that momentum. I think that it's still a very talented team, and there's some questions about certain players as to whether they are going to return next year. We will see what happens with certain guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, those guys. What are they going to do in this game? What is it gonna look like for them in 2024? But today we're looking at what do they do to beat Missouri. This is a Missouri team that is very talented and playing with a ton of confidence, a ton of momentum. You're going to have to find a way to step up yet again, come off a loss to Michigan, and find a way to end your season 12-1 instead of 11-2. When you look at this Ohio State team, yes, they had some issues. Yes, they had some struggles, but this is still a really fun team. I think that they still had plenty of talent. You saw a guy like Travion Henderson come back. Marvin Harrison Jr. was phenomenal. Cade Stover stepped up in a big way. I still think that there's plenty to be excited about. It's just that when you're Ohio State, you reach a certain level where expectations are so high, the bar is so high that anything over zero losses is a disappointment. And sometimes that's good, but also you're looking at a team that, if we're being honest, when you look at Kyle McCord, you probably didn't expect him to win you a national championship. And that's not to say Kyle McCord is bad because he wasn't a bad quarterback. He just wasn't CJ Stroud. He wasn't Justin Fields. And again, it goes back to that bar. You have such a high bar that if you meet anything less than that bar, it's viewed as a disappointment. And now you have to find a way to move on. Now, a lot of Ohio State fans think that Devin Brown is the answer to their problems. We will find out if that is truly the case or if Ryan Day is going to have to look into the transfer portal. I think that he still entertains that possibility of bringing in a quarterback from the transfer portal, maybe a guy like Cam Ward. I think that would be really fun to watch, but we will see what happens with this bowl game. We're seeing a number of quarterbacks step up that are getting their first starts in bowl games, and Devin Brown gets a chance to show Ohio State what he can do in a big game. When you look at the amount of talent around him, there shouldn't be a ton that he needs to do. It's not like he has to be a hero because they have a lot of heroes already on this roster. Like I said, Travion Henderson getting back to 100% was probably the best thing for this offense because you look at last year, this team struggled when they couldn't run the football. And now you get an explosive weapon like Travion Henderson back, and you saw the results. You saw a more balanced offense. You saw an offense that didn't have to rely on the passing attack, which is good because the passing attack wasn't going to be what it was last year under CJ Stroud. The talent around Devin Brown at receiver is just unfair. Marvin Harrison Jr. has not declared his intentions yet as the time I'm recording this. So we will see what happens with his future. Is there a chance that he comes back? Is he truly playing in the bowl game? That'd be really fun. But I think that in the end, he's going to go pro. It's just a matter if he sits out the bowl game or if he declares after. I think that he's just ready to go. There's really not a reason to come back unless you're making more money than you would as a first round pick. So that's like the only thing with NIL that would keep him back. Cade Stover had a big year in for his standards. I think that he was a huge part of this offense, and he's a big target who's really, I think, still developing. I think he still has his best football ahead of him. And then a guy like Emeka Ibuka kind of flies under the radar because Marvin Harrison Jr.'s spotlight is so big, kind of lives in the shadows of Marvin Harrison Jr., but is still a big time threat. He would be a wide receiver one on a lot of other schools, but the fact that he is the second best receiver on his team says a lot about the talent level that Ohio State has. Now we'll see what happens with him in the future and what he's going to do and what his production looks like if Marvin Harrison Jr. truly does leave. We'll see what happens there. But regardless, this game features a number of talented players that will make Devin Brown comfortable, and that should make for a really exciting offense to watch. Now, the defense has been really good. Jim Knowles has done a great job in year two of getting this unit to step up in a big way. I think that they took great strides, and they were a big reason why Ohio State had as much success. Because when you look at last year, if they had last year's defense, I think they lose more than one game because this defense at times was the biggest reason they won certain games. When you look at the Penn State game, they were the reason they won that game. When you look at other games like the Wisconsin game, they weren't the biggest reason, but they were a big reason. I think that that's been huge for them. And when you're facing an offense like Missouri's, you need a defense to step up in a big way. And I think that they have exactly that. They have the talent up front, and their ability to win on the line of scrimmage will determine a lot. We'll talk about Devin Brown here. When we came into the year, there were two things we talked about. We talked about Devin Brown being number 33, which is just what is what it is. And then we talked about him potentially challenging Kyle McCord for the starting spot. Now, there are a lot of Ohio State fans that are really excited about Devin Brown and what he can do. Can he be QB1? Can he be that elite player that Buckeye fans expect him to be? We will find out. One game is not going to determine everything, but it's going to give us a glimpse of what he can do, what he is capable of. Obviously, you look at his stats and you don't see much. You didn't really get a full picture of what he is capable of doing. But when you have the amount of talent that we just talked about around him, there's not a lot stopping you from being great. There's not a lot stopping you from, you're in a great system, you're under a great coach, and you have the talent around you to be a really exciting quarterback. So whether or not you do it is kind of up to you. Devin Brown could be really good. I mean, he's a really talented player, really talented recruit coming out of high school, and there's a reason why Ohio State wanted him, and there's a reason why he did challenge Kyle McCord for that starting spot. Now he gets a chance to show why he should have been the starter. Because sometimes we look at these things, sometimes in practice, guys just don't perform well enough to win the starting spot. And maybe we find out that Devin Brown is infinitely better because we've seen that a number of times where a guy comes into a game and just balls out and everybody wonders, well, why wasn't he starting in the first place? We don't know what's going on in those practices. We don't know what the quarterback battles look like. Maybe Kyle McCord was better in practice and Devin Brown is just better in games when he's got the juices flowing, when he's got his competitive nature turned up. We will see. But I'm really excited to see what he can do. It kind of gives you a glimpse of what they're going to do at the position for the 2024 season. Maybe they're satisfied with Devin Brown. Maybe regardless of what he does, they still go in the transfer portal. That's something that will be determined by this game. And I think that his ability to throw against a really talented secondary in Missouri will determine a lot about what their plans are for the future. And we already talked about his options downfield. When you look at the other side of the ball, stopping Missouri's passing attack will be tough. When you look at Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, Brady Cook, they have a lot of players that can do a lot of damage. So guys like Jack Sawyer getting to the quarterback plays a huge role. I think Jack Sawyer is still playing he's still on the rise. I think he has his best football ahead of him. He still has plenty of room to develop and get better. And now he gets a chance to face a really talented Missouri offensive line. He gets a chance to show why he's going to be a future NFL draft pick. And it's just a matter of how well he plays in this game. I think that he, like I said, has a lot of good football ahead of him. He's had a solid year for Ohio State, and getting another year under his belt means only good things. And we'll see what it means for his future. But it's going to help this team if they're going to slow down the Missouri passing attack. If they're going to slow down this offense, the rushing attack for Missouri is pretty good too. So finding ways to slow them down, finding ways to take away the football, get the football back to your offense, an offense that is trying to figure out what Devin Brown is going to be, remains a huge key. I think Ohio State is still in great hands. I think that they are just fine despite their struggles at times. And I think this is still a very talented team, and I'm really excited to see how this game plays out.